So I'm here on the second to last day, at the end of the second to last day of the Aotearoa Art Fair, and I thought I would do a video talking about some of the works because I haven't been, probably noticed, that good at sending emails or updating social media about everything. So we are here at 6 o'clock. We're lucky the lights haven't gone out because there's a bit of a gallery drinks, and I'll use next few minutes of light just to give you a little tour so you can see what we're showing. So where should I start? Um, well, let's start with the painting Him by Tom Ninow. And it's a great privilege and pleasure to be showing this work. Tom's been working on it for uh, really quite a long time now, and actually, he probably would hate me saying this, but his mother, she came by today, and she said that he'd actually sort of had a go at this painting many months ago, 5 months ago, and thrown that one out. And this is actually a second try at it because it's a very complex image. To give you a little rundown on Tom's practice, um, he stages his images. So he makes photographs as studies, and then he does things on the computer, sort of digital things, to almost digitally composite them. And then he uses those digital images to inform the way in which he paints the work, the strategy for painting the work. So he'll make color breakdowns, almost in the same way as a printer might, print things in CMYK. There's a layer of cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Uh, Tom paints in a similar way, where he layers all of these transparent layers of color. And so what you're seeing, the color you're perceiving, is actually the combination of all of these layers rather than that specific color sort of daubed on the canvas. And it's interesting because this is kind of how the old masters painted. Charles Goldie, for instance, is not an old master, but in New Zealand, I guess, is our version of that. He would paint in a similar way, where he layered and layered and layered and layered up. And so on one hand, it's kind of like painting like a printer, like you're painting like a machine. And on the other hand, it's like an old technique, which I think is really, really interesting. And so I don't know if I can switch this round. I wonder if I can. Let's see if I can. Probably not once I've started, but we're just going to do this, and I'll just try and. How you doing? I'm just filming a little video for the internet. So I'll flip this round. You can see here the painting behind me, and you can see the effect he's kind of got here, which is really incredible. It's yeah, amazing. It's this person holding a recorder, as you can see, and being seen through the sort of stained glass window. And what I really think about with this work is, there's this sort of phenomenon where people who become really good at something often have someone who's sort of, pushing them. Maybe it might, painting, for instance, could be one, or it could be music, or it could even be sport. So if you think, what's that movie with Will Smith where he was the father of Venus and Serena Williams? But, that sort of thing. And so in this painting here, you can see these foreshortened hands, which are the hands of the player, but also it sort of also makes you think, well, whose hands are they? So even if they are their hands, are their hands really playing it? And often, people who have been sort of pushed to be really amazing at something, um, it's almost, it's because of the will of that person living through them. And it's interesting because, like, on one hand, you see, you think about a film like Whiplash or something. You see these things that are, on one hand, it's sort of a bad thing, because this person doesn't have their own free will. But on the other hand, the world is a better place because there are these sort of virtuosos in the world. And yeah, it's an incredible work, and quite large, probably the largest work I've seen Tom produce. So I met Tom when we were working at an auction house together, and I remember once asking him if he could show me one of his paintings. And when he showed me, I was sort of blown away. Super rare that you see someone who can sort of both master the kind of technical aspects of painting and the ideas and bring them together in such a fully formed way. And he's in his 20s, which is incredible. Um, and over here we have some works. We have a few works in the booth by Alex McFarlane. And these works here were originally shown in a show that started last December at Enjoy Gallery, which is a public gallery in Wellington. And the show was called, I think it was Extraordinary Contact. Forgive me if I got that wrong. And it was all about, what's the word for it? It was all about alien encounters or encounters with extraterrestrials or, even UFOs. And while it was about those things, it was also, well, it is about those, but more than that, it's using those things to talk about the fact that people often use things like stories of extraterrestrials to talk about experiences that may have actually really happened to them. I'm not saying UFOs aren't real. I mean, I think it's sort of generally now understood that they are real, but on the fringes, and it's probably not just the fringes, many stories involving UFOs, aliens, that sort of thing, um, aren't real. And in many cases, people will use those stories to speak about things that they might not otherwise be able to speak about. So, experiences that might have been traumatic, and by attributing them to something that doesn't necessarily actually exist, or some other being, some otherworldly being, it's easier to discuss these things. And that's kind of what they're about. And they're really beautiful. Alex paints on well, she paints on canvas, on paper, many things. But one thing she really loves is to oil paint on paper. And these works have this really beautiful quality where, if you paint oil on paper, the canvas can take quite a beating, and so it can really, you can really work up a painting, and quite thick on a canvas because it's quite strong, durable. It's usually taut, it's stretched, but paper is a lot thinner, and so it can absorb kind of less oil. And so if you keep working on it, they get this really beautiful, these beautiful areas of intensity where there's heaps of oil absorbed and the paint is really built up, or they can be quite thin. Like, for instance, this work here, which was from the same exhibition. What I really love about it, you probably can't see it that easily, but there are these, whoopsie daisy, there are these areas in the sky where the she's used the paintbrush to sort of scrape back the blue paint, and what you're seeing there is just slightly lighter areas of paint in the sky, but it's just a bit more paper showing through. But the effect is, it's like these huge beams of light, but they're really done very simply. But what you're seeing is so much more complex than that. I also love these really thick bits here. They almost look like maybe like a Pat Hanley or something, a sort of garden painting. Um, so those, yeah, I mean, those are those works there, and yeah. Also the Trojan Horse. The Trojan Horse by, it's also by Alex, and it's interesting. I kind of think about when I haven't quite got my elevator pitch for Alex's practice perfect yet, but I sort of think about her practice as being sort of about these kind of cultural through lines, or points of common understanding. And I know that Alex was thinking about the idea of viruses when she made this work, and you know, it's kind of interesting. Something I find really interesting is that there are more Trojan horses in the world now than there ever have been. Because Trojan horses are a kind of computer virus, and I think that's kind of fascinating. It's like there's this interesting, vestige of the past that's still in use, even though it feels totally antiquated. I often think about the fact that there's so many things in the world that are these interesting little vestiges of the past that you really think about them when you really start looking at them, they feel quite antiquated and almost like yeah, like medieval, like something like. Have you ever? I mean, something I think about. This is quite funny. Is that the world is full of keys and locks, and you can't access things unless you have a physical key to access a specific lock. It's a bit like a kind of fantasy computer game. Same thing with, the world is full of passwords. Did you ever think that your entire existence would be governed and protected by the use of passwords? Because everything you do on the computer is a password. It's this little bit of knowledge, and if you don't have it, something can be lost forever. Um, and then the third artist that we are showing is Ralph Payne. And these works here from his Tiepolo series, and they are gouache and pencil on paper. This work here, it's funny, I had some sort of safer works um, up before, and when I say safer, I thought maybe perhaps easier images, because this image here with this sort of the words coming down from the spine. I've always found things that like are a little bit bodily, somewhat difficult more difficult to sell. But I had these safer works up, and then I decided to sort of rethink it, because I thought, Charles, you're not here to be safe. So here we are with this work here, beautiful. I love these rounded corners that he's done. Ralph, of course, was the first show we had at the gallery with Leaves from a Pillow Book, which did very well. It was an amazing first show, and it's lovely to have these works here, because how should I put it? They add a little sort of something softer, something poetic. I mean, the works are all poetic, but there's something that they bring to the booth that I think it would have otherwise lacked. And lovely to have an older, more senior artist exhibited with some young, very promising artists. Also, I should say, thanks to an empty wine glass, thanks to Goodform, who have lent me this beautiful table and chairs, which is, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, but I'm going to. It's a breakfast. It's actually technically a breakfast table. I'd use it as a dining table. I don't have much space at home. It's a beautiful, perfect 1.1 meters wide, the diameter, and uh, yeah, this is sort of our booth here. Ignore the bits of paper, but you can sort of see what we've decided to do here, and yeah, it's been a great event. So tomorrow is the last day of the fair, and I encourage you to come through and have a look.